Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, July 18th at 9:03 a.m. This is the Contract Review Committee. My name is Veronica Bolchik, and I am the chairperson. Our vice chair, Joanna, will be joining us in about 15 minutes. First thing I'd like to do is, this meeting is being recorded, and it also is, it's a hybrid meeting, so we have members on Zoom and we have members here in the trailer. So all votes will be done by roll call. Welcome, everyone. This is, I guess, our first meeting of the fiscal year 26. So I welcome everybody. I will establish a quorum first. So up on the screen, we have John Blush.
Here.
With yes, there. And we have our new member, Lee Tesser.
Right.
All right. Okay. And I believe what we need to do with the roll calls, that you also just announce your name when you make your vote or your call. So that's just procedural. And here in person, we have Sue Minthinen.
Sue Minthinen present.
And myself, Veronica Bolchik, present. And as I said, Joanna and Linda, hopefully, Joanna will be joining us, and Linda, we hope, will also be joining us. In the trailer, we have two members of the Health and Human Services Department. We have Jericho Maley, present, and Alexandria Richards.
Alexandria here.
Okay, so we've got a quorum. With the recent appointment of Lee, we have 6 members right now. And we will discuss later on in our agenda, because we still have an open seat that is, according to the charter, is to be appointed by NPEDC. And we don't have a representation there. We should have 7 members, and hopefully in a short period of time, we will have 7 members. We always want to make sure we have an odd number. It just is best working for deliberations and just for operational. So with the core, we have good. Accept the agenda.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
That's John. All righty, by roll call, John.
Aye, John.
All right, Lee.
Yes.
All right, Sue.
Sue Minthinen, aye.
And myself, Veronica, aye, so we have an agenda. All right. We have, next item is approval of minutes. We have minutes from May 30th and from June 6th. I have a motion to approve those minutes.
I have a question. We have quorum with Lee, but Lee can't vote on the minutes. Does that matter?
You do need a quorum in order to approve minutes,
Okay,
and any vote will
Right.
require the quorum. I can fix that. That was Linda on the phone. I'm just getting her
okay,
the link to get in, because the new agenda center is disagreeing with her.
okay. That seems to sometimes
Happen.
happen. It happened, yeah,
I could.
Send it. I got it.
okay.
But we do have the quorum. We just don't have a voting.
Right,
Okay.
right. Lee, you weren't present for those meetings, so technically you cannot vote on that.
I get it.
All right.
Nothing personal.
I don't take it personally.
We seldom have anything personal on this, except
Exactly.
things that are nice things.
Thank you, John.
Well stated.
Yes. Is
That should do it. I sent it to Oops, I'm gonna have to print the same email twice.
While we're waiting for Linda to join, once again, I need a little bit of assistance with the screen. I don't necessarily see any members of the public.
There are no members of the public in attendance at the moment.
Okay,
Linda should be joining. We'll just check the
Okay.
audio in a second.
I feel like the notifications aren't going out like automatically anymore. Like I got a notification of the meeting from Alexandria, but I used to sign up and it would get auto
You might have to
re-sign.
because
Okay.
the agenda center, which I think is the whole,
Yeah, it's been revamped.
they use the newer version of it. I'm pretty sure it has the same functionality, but I don't think it has the same list of people who have signed up for it.
Okay,
Right.
because I know
Linda?
more.
Oh, just a word of caution here. If you sign up for the automatics, you will get notice on every single freaking meeting in this town.
It is
Oh, no,
unfortunately
no.
the case that I have yet to figure out how to blacklist and whitelist certain
Right.
files, so.
well,
They
you
need
know,
to spend the 10 grand a month and go back to the other program. They did it to only to save money from 10 grand to 3 grand a month. And everybody's having problems because if I'm a member of the public and I went to the calendar and I went to to print out my agenda, I should have been able to get access to this meeting by hitting the Zoom link. So we are in violation of the open meeting law because this is a problem. For everybody's having the same problem.
We're not in violation with open meeting law, and this is not the place to have this discussion.
right,
Yeah, but if I couldn't get in and you had to send it to me individually, what are the other public doing? That's the problem.
This is, well, we can discuss this elsewhere.
right. Thank you, Linda. We'll take it under consideration and discuss later. So we have Linda Williams joining us at 9:09 a.m. Thank you, Linda. We have established we have quorum and we accepted the agenda. We were just to approval of minutes from 5:30:25 and 6:25. So I was asking for a motion to approve those minutes.
I'm happy to make that motion.
All right, Sue, can I have
I'll
a second?
second.
All right,
I'll
Linda,
second.
Thank you. By roll call, Linda,
Aye.
Lee, Lee, I'm sorry, Lee, you cannot vote on this. John,
I,
myself, Veronica, and Sue.
Aye,
All
so
right, so we have approved those minutes. Thank you, Lexi, for doing a great job in getting those done in a timely fashion. We have no public on Zoom at this point, and we have no one in person. But we will have a investigation to the issue that Linda pointed up of the links working, et cetera. So we're on to introducing our new contract review committee at large member, Lee Tesser. Welcome.
Good morning.
What I would thought is we can first introduce ourselves because we are all new to you and you are new to us. So first we'll do just a basic introduction and then we'll spend a little bit of time of just what we are all about and how we go about doing it, et cetera. So
That's great.
all right, I will start. I will break the ice here. My name is Veronica Bolchik and Lee, in doing a little investigation and looking, we have something very much in common. Our ties to Hackensack, New Jersey.
Wow.
So I noticed that you had an office at on Main Street, Upper Main Street. I lived in Fairmount for 40, well, 45, we won't go there, but raised my children there, and retired and sold and ultimately came to Nantucket. So been a full-time resident here for the past 8 years, happily. And using my background in business, education, and serving the public, I was on the Board of Education in Hackensack for 8 years. Served as president of the board for a number of years, and I definitely, that definitely gave me, good background for what we're doing here for sure. So, that's myself. We'll go to Sue.
Hi Lee, good morning. I am Sue Mintonen. I've been a Nantucket full-time resident for 12 years and come by way of mainland Massachusetts. I am a nonprofit professional management person, work a lot in human services, and am involved in too many organizations. I like to be very busy, or at least I must, because I keep making myself very busy.
Okay, John?
I moved here from Connecticut, where I lived in Westport for about 8 to 10 years. I moved here in 2002, full time. I was a practicing lawyer in my professional life. When I arrived in Nantucket, I knew exactly one person, or my wife and I knew exactly one person. Since coming here, I have worked on or been involved with various volunteer organizations. Not generally speaking, I will say, an intelligent gadfly, but partially because for various reasons, I didn't have any particular bent, and I came onto this contract review committee as having been a member of the Human Services Committee at a point in time when it was essentially moribund, but was being reactivated by a former chair who really, for her health reasons, is no longer active in town government, but was very helpful in getting it going. And as a result, I then became an enlarged member, and I've been a member of the Contract Review Committee for some 15 years.
Thank you. Linda?
I listened to how short a period of time all of you have lived here. You don't even aggregate total, not mine. I've been here, geez, I've been here 52 years year round and was a summer brat before that. My family's been coming here since 1929. I got relatives buried here from the 1600s. I've been on every board. I've been on this one, what, 2 or 3 times, Jericho?
Yes.
Yeah, and been involved in human services in various other forms, human services and EMT, et cetera, et cetera. But I've been on everything, so there's no point in going through that. And glad to have you. Now, did you get sworn in at the town clerk's office?
I did not.
Then you can't actually participate in the meeting until you go down to the town clerk's office and get sworn in.
Okay.
Participate, just cannot vote.
You just can't, you can't be voting.
Can't vote.
Okay, Lee, did you receive any information from, I guess it would have come from Erica?
So I just got one email from Erica basically saying, here's your appointment. And the next thing I got was the email with the link for today. So I really don't know much. If I need to do something
Okay.
currently, I'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Lee,
just
and
go down to the town clerk's office and get sworn in and
Okay.
tell them what position you're in.
Okay.
And you can do that anytime during the business hours there. They're very good. They'll just drop what they're doing and she brings out the book and you swear in.
It's
And I apologize for not having reached out to you this week because it's been a busy week. I just heard, I guess it was early in the week that you were appointed, so if you can take care of being sworn in next meeting, we'll hit the ground running with you, but you certainly can be here and participate, but just no votings at this point. So, Lee, we hear from you now.
Yes, sure. So I enjoyed hearing everybody's story because that's what Nantucket's all about, right? The personal stories. My first trip to Nantucket was 1989. I sailed with a bunch of buddies from Norwalk, Connecticut to Nantucket, and since then we started to vacation every year. My wife and I started to, rent in we'll just say the early 90s, and we bought our place in 2009, and starting to spend a lot more time on the island. On Monday, I'll be up there for 2 weeks. I'm still working. I'm a construction attorney for 39 years. That's my specialty. And candidly, I just wanted to get involved in town government any which way I could. So I thought this committee looked really interesting, and I guess there was an opening and I got appointed. So I'm looking forward to working with everyone.
By the
Okay.
way, what exit? I'm from New Jersey also.
A lot of New Jersey folks. So I live in Wyckoff, New Jersey. My office is in Hackensack and also New York. So I'm in North Jersey.
I'm Montclair.
Oh, Montclair, yeah, beautiful town, beautiful.
Yeah. So Lee, there's another potential procedural thing, and I would have.
Residents.
Exactly. And we are gonna discuss this more and a little bit further down the agenda, but currently the understanding is to be a member of the contract review committee. You need to be a voting member of the Nantucket community. So I don't know if you vote here or not, but we probably need to look
To check
into
through
that.
that with
Right.
Maureen.
Right. So,
I guess-
and I assume that they would have vetted that with your application and your appointment. But
Yeah, so I totally understand any which way. So last year there were some openings for various committees, and I communicated with Erica, and I told her I was still, I wanted to know if we could do it remotely. I was not a full-time resident, and she did say that I could not serve on several committees. Then this year, when the openings came up, I kind of just sent her an email and said, hey, look, same issue. I understand whatever the rules are. And she said, basically, I guess it would be okay for some committees and not others. Whatever the rules are, the rules are. I totally get it. So, yeah.
Well, Lee, and I know this is kind of an awkward first meeting because.
Yeah,
But
I may be off the committee.
not voted off the island, but maybe.
That's right. I could still go to the island.
We welcome you for sure, because, we all are, well. I was gonna say we're all Washer Shores, but I think that, Jericho is not, but the rest of it, but Washer Shore and the island functions because of us Washer Shores, along with, native, Nantucketers. One thing, and maybe we can jump to, just a overview of what we do, and that is gonna lead into a discussion because we have formally put a number of questions into the town attorney. And one of the questions that this past week was submitted to the town attorney is, do you need to be a voting member on Nantucket's rolls to participate
We
in
got it.
CRC?
We got an answer to that just says resident.
Resident.
And I didn't want to ask for clarification because it's town council. and it's
Exactly.
Billable hours.
So we have to go back through
Yeah.
and that, so that is one of the things that is being investigated. So I would at this point, get sworn in and,
I wouldn't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that until that answer. Don't get sworn into anything if the answer is no, don't do it. You gotta get the answer before anybody's sworn in.
Linda is usually our, procedures and rules and whatever, so I'm going to, take her advice and,
I expect to get an answer to this pretty quickly.
okay,
Maureen's usually very quick about turnaround for this.
okay.
And
So,
there is a definition of the word resident, and that usually means a voting member. So I don't know where this is gonna go on this particular committee. There are other ones that rules and, roads and rights of way, you don't need to live here. So it's a varying degree, as you already know.
right.
And I think the residency requirement is tax paying, and then there is is either tax, we'll find out from Maureen, hopefully before the end of the meeting. Oh, and we have Joanna coming in.
Okay. So it's 9:24 and we have Joanna joining us. All right, and she is on mute at the moment. All right, to continue this conversation, the reason for, what we understand that to be on the contract review committee, you need to be a voting member resident, is that we make recommendations on tax dollars. And that is why that ruling is in place, but we're seeking clarification on that. So if hopefully we'll get a answer, very soon, and we'll proceed. If it is that you have to be a voting member, I will encourage you to seek other committees, because our government functions on councils, boards, committees, and not all have to be a full-time voting resident on the island, so.
In general, it's just if there are tax monies being allocated
Right.
through decisions.
Right.
To be fair, yeah, so there are any number, the majority of advisory boards do not have a residency.
Yeah,
requirement.
CHS does.
Nope.
No.
We're opening for CHS right now? No, we don't actually just go.
Joanna, where we were up to, we just introduced ourselves to Lee, and he hasn't been sworn in yet, and there's questions on residency, et cetera, so we are investigating that, so he won't be voting, but he certainly can participate. So Joanna, can you give a little bit of a introduction of yourself so Lee can
Sure.
hear?
Sure. I'm Joanna Roach. I work at the Mariah Mitchell Association. I've been on this committee for 4 or almost 5 years. I'm on the finance committee. I've been on that committee for like 10 years. And I've lived on Nantucket for, I think, 14 years now. So welcome. I really love being on this committee. I think this is important work. I think that all of the volunteers involved take it very seriously, and I think we are all working to do good things for Nantucket. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. So Linda, I don't think we're up to the 52 years yet with
Yeah.
Joanna's 14, but
I keep trying to leave and it doesn't work.
Alrighty. So what we're gonna talk about now is, and I put it on the agenda as overview of interconnection and roles of CHS, which is Contract Council of Human Services, and the Contract Review Committee. We last year had a consultant by the name of Reptelis do an overview of human services, and gave us a excellent report and made a number of recommendations for potential better functioning, et cetera. Over the last 10 months, we've enacted many of those recommendations, and one of the recommendations or potential recommendations was combining CRC and CHS. They they looked at a number of different towns in Massachusetts and one in Connecticut. And, you know, our organizations, goes back to a charter that was done in 1986 that established, the Council for Human Services and CRC and how they would be interacting together. Over a period of time, 1986 is a long time ago, things evolve. And what happened is the Council for Human Services, who the way it was established is basically the parent organization, became, they disbanded, I don't know if it disbanded, but it just, they did not function for a number of years.
Basically, what happened is that the Department of Human Services for the town essentially was phased out gradually during the economic downturn in 08-09. And as a result, the council for that went away. But the grant monies were still being allocated and used for human services spending, which was in greater need. So the council contract review committee continued.
The contract review committee continued, but without the parent organization of CHS. So in, I guess I joined CHS, back in 2021. And it had been reforming at that point. And, I currently serve as the chair. And Sue Minthinen here is the, co-chair of that committee. We are now up to full board there. We just have a new person that was appointed, so we have our 9 members of that committee. One of the recommendations was to combine back together. And we recognize that if that was to be done, it would require an annual town meeting. At this point in time, annual town meeting, as the word annual, won't happen until next May. There's an outside chance that there may be a special town meeting that this could go before, but we've been advised that, most likely not happening, or we should, if we are gonna consider any changes, it wouldn't happen until May of 26. So I've been working with Jericho and the recommendations, and we actually had a sit down with a select board member who is a former member of CHS and CRC. And we met with her that if we were going to have to do a warrant, what would it be? Because that stuff has to be started to work on already. And I flip back and forth, but I realize that we go back to the charter and how the charter was written and with the recommendations that we've made great strides to make this work better already. And the recommendation is to keep the board separate.
Yep.
But more involvement on CHS. In the way that CHS should be the oversight of the CRC. CRC should be, it's a contract review committee, and the contract review committee should be reviewing the grant applications and making recommendations. But there has to be communication back and forth between the two boards. I see Linda's hand up there first, so I'm gonna go to Linda first.
I don't think they should be combined. I was on,
We're not proposing now.
I know, I just think that was a bad idea because there was a reason why we separated years ago when I was on them before. I do agree that communication between the two is good. However, we reformat the organization organizational flow chart. But I think we are in communication with that group because both you and Sue are on that group. So that's, the increased communication, flummoxes me because you guys are on both groups.
Right, well, I think maybe I've used the wrong words for that because we have some incredibly talented individuals on CHS that could be functioning more in an advisory capacity for this group. One of the things that we've talked about, our grant cycles, CRC, historically, started up in the fall and went through January, when the recommendations would go to the finance committee, and then there was an occasional meeting for quarterlies. And it was a limited number of meetings. In the past 2 years, we've sort of blown that, schedule because we had 2 separate grant cycles. We had the youth behavioral health cycle, and then we just most recently had the opiate grant. Remediation grants. So they fell out of our normal cycle. Will that happen in the future? I doubt if we'll do a youth behavioral health again, but there will be more opiate remediation money coming down the road, and when we would have that, so it would be a separate cycle. So to get people to serve on a committee, we need to give time structures or whatever. The CHS meets monthly, and as I said, we have some incredibly talented individuals there that would like to be participating more. So in trying to structure this, we're making a recommendation that CHS forms segment groups. When we put together our report for finance last year, we basically broke down what grants we gave to certain segments, and those segments, sectors, so, housing, food, fuel, rental, housing was one, healthcare was another, behavioral health was another, going down that line. The intention is potentially to have CHS divide into work groups that could help do deep dives, bring to CRC more in-depth knowledge of a segment. So if we're looking at a grant from a behavioral health application, that we can use the members of the work group in CHS to be not necessarily part of deliberations, but the fact finding and information, etc. I saw Joanna's up there first, and then I'll come to you. So Joanna?
So I have a couple of questions, and I apologize if I missed any of this. So which is the CRC? The CRC is the regulatory board, though.
No,
No, we're
No,
advisory.
Grant.
none of these are regulatory boards. They are all advisory boards. The product of the contract review committee is a recommendation for adoption or not for acceptance or not acceptance to FinCom, which then goes on to town meeting.
Okay.
We're purely advisory.
Okay, and so are you saying, Veronica, that you want the CHS to approve our recommendations for grants? No.
No,
Okay.
no, but I think that some of the things that CRC has been doing really should have been under CHS. And, you know, some of that would be, as an example, the needs assessment that is working its way toward approval, and we'll get that in the director's report. That is under CHS. That's their duty, and they will take those recommendations, which probably wouldn't have an effect until fiscal year 27 at this point, or 28, even the way that we're working. But they will ultimately, you know, maybe from this information we get, say, okay, we have a great need in this area, so parameters are grants should be awarded for X amount of dollars in housing, in healthcare, et cetera. So they have somewhat of a from their depth of knowledge, advising us on parameters for dollar amounts awarded in certain areas. We're away from that happening because the needs assessment is just in final approvals, et cetera.
Right.
Did I answer that?
Sort of. How many people are on the how many people are on the CHF?
9.
9. And
9.
what, can you tell me can you run through who they are so I understand the expertise that you're talking about?
Okay, so
I can pull it up.
all right, well, I'll go from memory right now. We have Sue and myself.
Mhm.
Then we have Sarah Wright, who is a social
Yeah.
worker at the
Yep.
hospital. And then we've got Amanda Wright, who is
Social worker at
social
Different
worker
Solutions.
doing multiple segments right now. We
Suzanne
have
Keating, formerly of Athenaeum, Tara
Yeah.
Restieri,
Kelly.
Kelly
Stepan-
Stefano, Process First. And then I do not know who's been added. I'm not familiar with the
Okay,
background.
so then we also have Claudia Valle. And then the last and the newest member, her name is Deborah Gormand, who I had the pleasure of meeting the other night at an event. And she is the parent of a neurodivergent adult at this point. And she is relatively new on the island, and like Lee, wanting to get involved, and she is quite passionate about what she has done in raising and advising her daughter, who is now actually a third year student at WPI. But and it was her moving her daughter, it's on the autistic spectrum. And so she's quite passionate, let's put it that way, and I think that she's gonna bring you know, more passion to that group too, that already sometimes were quite passionate. So that's the CHS at this point.
Do you have is there a written charter for each of these groups
Yeah,
that you
Yes.
can share with us? Because I'd like to see what the charters are for both groups.
I can throw the links to, so the charter and mission statement is up on the webpage for each one of them. I'll chuck them into the chat.
We still have
Okay.
chat.
I feel like we do.
I don't know that we do.
We do not.
I was gonna
I will
say, I don't
send them-
see it.
But I'll send you the links and we can send them out to the group.
Okay,
Okay.
Essentially, the Council for Human Services is the overseeing body of the contract review committee and is responsible for setting priorities, establishing rubrics, and then doing kind of intake and hearing human service related complaints from the community. The contract review committee by charter and by mission statement is intended solely to meet, evaluate, and provide recommendations on human services bids. Technically, everything else besides that and the quarterly reviews is not entirely on mission. So the idea is that because we have large amounts and hopefully increasing numbers of applications in a broader and broader fields, is to lighten the individual load on the members of this committee and then constrain it so we can get more done, because we now have an official due date for our recommendations. They are to be in by the end of December, which means that we need to get through this process quicker. We have additional manpower, additional resources, and additional expertise. I've worked with Maureen Coleman to discuss any questions around open meeting law for these work groups, as well as making sure that they're declared meetings with minutes that would be part of a separate work group that would allow us to do an initial evaluation of a particular sector's grant requests, and then provide a recommendation to the contract review committee, much in the same way we used to assign specific agencies to people who are most familiar with them, to then do a deeper dive on that particular agency and bring it back to the contract review committee as a whole. All deliberations, any resource setting, the final allotments of money that we recommend, all of that remains solely in the purview of the contract review committee. It's just additional labor and resources that allow us to actually hit the times that we're like to meet the tempo so that we have more run up to prepare for the Article 8 defense.
Right.
So basically, the CHS work groups, they're gonna be completing the rubrics and giving us their recommendations. And then we're gonna
Yeah.
review them.
No,
What for?
what they,
No, they're not gonna complete the rubric. They're going
They
to
write-
write the rubric.
yeah.
And will give it to us, and we will have the ability to tweak it or whatever, but knowing what the overall grant application and what we're looking for, it will help us, I think, make a more effective rubric, which we all agreed,
Needed
we
to happen.
need to happen. So, they will give us, they will do the review, they will give us a rubric, it will come to us and we can tweak it.
Okay. Okay, I mean, okay, thank you.
Linda?
I'm not happy with this conversation. I think I was going down the same road that we just went down. What are we doing then? What are we here for then? If we're
Reading
just gonna
all-
be, well, I want to finish because I'm not comfortable with what I'm hearing. First off, we know these people that apply to us. We're not idiots. We have as much experience here on a granular level than anybody coming from CHS, because I've been on both and I was on CHS for a long time, as well as when they dismantled it. And I was in that office all the time with Mary Ann because there wasn't enough people to help. And now I'm hearing, what are we doing? If we're going to be told or overseen to that extent, why do we show up? And you're saying
Okay.
it's heavy lifting and there's not enough time and all this other crap. I've been on every board and chairman of every board I've been on. And this
Linda.
is not heavy lifting. We do a really good job. We know these people. We have a granular level of knowledge of these people. I can understand, I didn't like the rubric, you know that. That needs to be redone. But if we're going to be overseeing to that extent and
I
told
think-
what to do and what not to do, I've got a problem with this.
Okay,
That's what
well,
I'm
Linda-
hearing.
Okay, maybe it's not being explained well enough then, because I don't necessarily see that what we do here in CRC is going to change. We still are reviewing the grants that come in. We all need to, read and, assimilate all the information. And we do deliberations, we make the recommendations.
But why,
But-
Veronica, why bother? If they're going to make the final determination, why do we
They're-
bother to waste our time?
We're not making the final determination. We are doing the grant review, deliberation, and making the recommendations.
But we're being
CH
told what to do by these little groups coming from
No.
CHS.
No, we're not being told what to do. Think of them as, and I'll go to a legal term, like an expert witness. You know, we could have someone, from the work group come and as we are discussing, they can add more information, they can bring, bring more, touch bases. And I know that, Linda, you know these organizations inside and out. Appreciate that, but, it is, we have people that are interested in doing, helping, and they look at it as an assist, but we make the recommendations, we do the review, we make the decisions. So CRC.
If they don't like it, they can just say, well, no, you didn't follow our
No.
rubric, you didn't follow our stuff.
No, they
no.
have no ability to do that, Linda.
No,
All
no.
they do is help us set up the rubric initially and then do additional research on the individual bids or the individual proposals that come to us. Last year
Why
we
do we
had
need that, Jericho?
because last year we had 17 grant applications that averaged
Right.
somewhere around 18 pages, which made for something like 350 pages of reading. Right?
Right.
And?
To evaluate all that and do additional follow-up questions requires more time than we have if we're going to deliver the results by the end of December.
Right.
I can't see it because I deal with things that are 10 times worse than this with 10 times more money on CPC. And somehow
Linda.
we get that done that in the same time period.
Linda, you
Right.
yourself have said you do not have time to do this sufficiently repeatedly over the course of this cycle and last cycle and the cycle
Okay.
before. This is
Sorry.
an attempt to reduce the amount of time by adding additional hands, which makes the work lighter, right? They have no.
Well, I'm not sure how that's supposed to work. You have two different organizations. If that organization usurps, basically, because we already have two of you here, which are very
Does not
effective,
usurp. This is a
then they're gonna have
subcommittee.
are we
This
gonna
is
have
a-
to post both
Linda.
meetings at the same time?
No.
No.
This
No.
is a subcommittee of the Council on Human Services. It has
Which has to be
always
posted
existed
on its own. Okay,
All right.
whatever.
All right.
I just see
I'm-
problems here.
Okay. I'm gonna go to John right now. Hand up,
It's,
John.
well, it's having been on the Human Services Committee in the past, it seems to me that particularly with an expanded group and people with the expertise, one of the things that they can do that we really can't do is look at a broader view of the whole Nantucket scene and identify where, how well, not only how well it's being presently served, but areas that without some input that we don't have the time or necessarily the focus to even identify things that we are. I agree with Linda when it comes to the particular organizations and how the money should be allocated. We do have that granular knowledge, but there's this
Yes.
broader area because this whole area of human services, particularly with opioid and other drug issues, which impact not only the health and the treatment of those particular issues, but they expands into homelessness, housing. But I can think of a couple of others. But anyway, in other words, I think the council can look at a wider and without getting down into the weeds.
Yes.
The
Thank you, John. Once again, you come through with sage wisdom. That's exactly, you've put it succinctly. The Council for Human Services should be having the broad view, and we use them as a resource. And the work groups will allow them to break up the areas so they can become more of the experts in certain areas to advise us. CRC does not change our function, but we're gonna be getting additional resources.
So I've not been in the weeds of
Right.
the conversation, but CHS is not dying to take over the CRC. Nobody wants to do this job from there.
No,
So I think they're just trying to get all this ancillary work that we try to do and let us do what we're actually chartered to do, read the applications, understand the needs that we're trying to fill and make those matches. They don't wanna belabor this and.
And by charter and mission statement, the CHS is the body that sets spending priorities in human services. That's
right,
that's what it has been by charter and by mission forever.
right.
I understand the sense of fear that like our control over what we do here is being taken away, but that is
That is
in no
not,
way the intention.
not at all, not at all. Joanna, is your hand up again there?
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay,
You're on mute.
yeah. She's swallowing.
So, sorry. I think this is interesting, but my question really is why do we need two committees then?
Yeah,
Well, that's what, and honestly, that is part of what the recommendation from was tell us that it should be just one committee.
Mhm.
When they examined the different municipalities to try to get like, what do other people do? We're the only
One that has this.
the only one that has two separate committees, that it becomes one. We cannot do that, though, without annual town meeting. It would have to go back to them to
Rewrite the bylaws.
rewrite the bylaws, et cetera. So it's sort of like we need to function, as we've been saying all along, you know, we're changing the tire as the bike is going down the road. We need to continue to function, and this could, if this works, this could be just an improvement on our process. And without combining them, or
I
it can
mean,
work till we.
Yeah. I mean, I have no opposition to this, but I definitely do see it as a duplication of effort, right? And so I think that even from the review perspective, right? If I'm in a small work group where I'm going to review, grant applications and then submit a recommendation for a decision that I'm not ultimately making, and then a whole group is going to do that work over again.
yeah.
Like, I don't know that I see this as efficient. I do see it as an exercise that prepares the CHS to take on the CRC, right? And I think that's fine, but let's just call this what it is, right? This is
Yeah.
not, I mean, that is a different kind of a conversation. And ultimately, just for myself, speaking as the representative from FinCom, who is the regulatory board that votes on this budget, part of what we at FinCom have tried to get the CRC to do over all of these years, and I think in the last couple of years has done a good job of, is presenting a very neutral, let's just say, set of recommendations that the finance committee then doesn't feel that they have to re-review. So the thing that I'm seeing here is that there's now going to be 3 levels of review on our grant making process, which is fine, but I do see that as a duplication of effort, because ultimately the FinCom votes on whether or not to allocate these funds. We don't, we make a recommendation. So what's happening here is now there's going to be an extra layer of review done by a work group.
Okay, I don't necessarily see, they're not gonna be reviewing grant applications and making recommendations. The work groups will be bringing the overview of what's happening in the community. We'll talk about, this is where food insecurity is going, et cetera, et cetera. That knowledge, and then we still do the grant reviews and the deep dives in that, but look at them as providing global information for us. More information just will make us function better. And so when it comes to FinCom, you don't need to do the deep dives and whatever, because you're getting recommendations that are based in more data, more facts, as opposed to And I hesitate saying this because we don't make emotional decisions, but, you know, more data you have, the more equipped you can be in making decisions.
I
Right.
mean, I think all that is
Uh.
true, but essentially what we are paving the way to do, let's just call this what it is. We are paving the way to combine CRC and CHS. So this is a step on that road. I mean, that is what it is.
It is a test to see if that's a good idea or not.
Right,
Not.
And if we don't
Okay.
know that yet, Linda, because we haven't tried it.
right.
Oh, yes, we did. I was on Human Services 25 years ago, maybe at this point. And there was a reason why CRC was put instituted on its own from CHS. There was a
It is-
reason. Now we're going backwards.
What is the reason?
I'd have to go back and look at my notes because there was a reason why they were split up.
Right.
Okay, John?
My recollection is that the roots of the CRC was that when they originally council was making recommendations, there were two elephants in the room, the hospital
Yeah.
and then Fairwinds.
Yeah,
And you get to town meeting floor and somebody on behalf of the hospital would call the article, and you'd had a lengthy debate on the floor of the town meeting about, and in those days, the hospital was providing, either they thought voluntarily, maybe they were required to, in some cases, provide some of it, but they were providing a large portion of what we today would call what social
Social
human
services.
efforts. It was Peter McKay's office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, so the CRC was created to sort of try and insulate the whole process of allocation of town money from this particular issue. And I'm just to go a little differently. It seems to me that the CRC was created to be, if you will, a monitor of the allocation of town money, whereas the Council for Human Services had a broader mandate that included not only what was going to be done with town money, but look at the whole community to make recommendations that would not necessarily be restricted to the amount of money that the town was willing to allocate to human services, but to make recommendations to the community as whole as to various things that could happen. And in those days, of course, the town, whatever the town office of human services was a one person show.
right.
I cannot say a one man show. It was a one person show, and we all know the person. And she was and what the end of the time, the office that she was stuck in was the what used to be the garage for the National
Right.
Grid. Anyway, given that history, it seems to me that the Council for Human Services still, that is a function that way beyond just this being the steward of the town's money, which the CRC really is. It can have a much broader viewpoint and come up with some ideas that may have nothing to do with town money. And anyway, that's my partially history and partially philosophy.
I need to add to that because I remember now that he brought that up. I've been to 50 years of town meetings, unfortunately. I hate them. But back in the day, anybody could apply for money from the town. The town also gave money to support the library and the hospital and a bunch of other miscellaneous things without necessarily being directed towards human services. So when human services wasn't going to deal with the money part of it, the grant part of it, they had to get a grip on who applied for money and where it came from and how much money you had. because we had varying degrees. I think it was 300 one year, 425 another year, more than what we get now another year, and now we're where we are right now, because that was a fixed amount now. And nobody had control of it. You could apply at town meeting and get it. And everybody we always voted for the library, we always voted for the hospital, but they were separate warrant articles. So CRC came into being, John is correct, to try to get a grip on everybody asking, going to one entity, having the grants, vetted, and here's your finite amount of money, who gets that money? The library stopped applying because it really had nothing to do with human services. So things were booted out. And this became more human services focused, but it was put in there to try to control all these miscellaneous warrant articles coming to the town for money, and we just granted it every time. I don't remember any time ever voting against one. So that's why CRC came into being. And it came into being, as John said, distinctly separate from CHS. Distinctly separate because its mission was different. But
It's
it's
not
all
distinctly
human
separate.
service focused now.
It is a subcommittee of the Council on Human Services.
Right.
And I very much appreciate its insulatory value when it comes to town meeting deliberations, because
Right.
that gets chaotic when it's on the floor, and we've seen several amendments to Article 8 or not, Article 9, that have popped up on the floor, changing our recommendations. The participation of CHS is to make the initial grant process a little bit more streamlined, because there's more people available to do deep dives, reviews, site visits, that sort of thing earlier in the process. Once that portion is done, then it goes back to the CRC and the process is exactly the same. We just have a more robust initial evaluation of the bids as they come in. Bid length has increased over the years. The programs are very different. We now evaluate programs, not organizations. There's a variety of changes that have taken place, which means that it would be beneficial for us to have more people working on this.
Right.
Since we have to maintain open meeting law restrictions and we have to manage minutes and appointments and Zoom channels, the idea is that we do work offline ahead of time with people who are willing and familiar with the subject, so that when we come together to do our deliberations, we are far more informed on what's going on. The process from then on is identical to as it exists now. It cannot be changed shy of a town meeting. And Veronica and I have bounced back and forth on whether or not we think it's a good idea to unify CHS and CRC, because their roles are really different.
Right.
I don't know. I genuinely do not know if one would work better than the other. I know that our job in the CRC is to very granularly evaluate financial information about bids and quarterly reports. And that is a difficult process to do, while also setting funding priorities for Council for Human Services across the entire community,
Right.
which is not really our job.
Right. Alrighty.
I
Lee,
think we
I'm
beat
not
this horse to death at the moment.
for now, but Lee, I don't know if I saw your hand going up or you have any comments after listening to,
Welcome to the contract review.
No, it's interesting. I'm a pretty quick study, but I certainly don't know enough to comment on it at this point.
alrighty. Well, thank you for listening, that's for sure. So, let's get back to our agenda. So, along with this, well, I guess let's do the review of our
The letter.
letter, which everyone should have received that yesterday or the day before.
And I can screen share it if you don't have it handy.
I have it.
Okay,
I would like to get it a little bit more than that in advance because I was off island all day yesterday, but I got it I read it this morning.
okay. All right. So, Jericho and I took a bunch of stabs at this. This has gotten rewritten and rewritten a number of times. And there were a couple of key points that, we now know that procedurally, a formal request needs to go to town management and the select board. So this letter will go to Libby and then to the select board. And they will approve, and this is only recommendations. We gotta realize that money is not set until town meeting, it's vote on, et cetera, but they will give us the recommendation of, what we're basically asking here is, we would be level funded for 26, and then a mechanism that will allow increases going forth, whether it is information that we come with the needs assessment, we can say, you know, we need X about more dollars. But for fiscal year 27, it would be 650 and the 175. What the added into here is we recognize that the 175 was set when it was coming from cannabis impact fees that no longer exists. So even though we are asking that 175, we know that the town is gonna have to come up with that money to give us the 175. And we tried to just add that in here as a reminder. So, you know, we understand that the needs are great. And we recognize that us asking for $825,000, when we look at other budgets that the town has, we are a grain of sand, but we also recognize that the town is gonna have to dig deep in other funds to get us to that 175.
Essentially, if we do nothing,
Right,
then our substance misuse allotment or recommended allotment will go down it'll go down to about a third of what it currently exists, between
Right.
50 and 65,000.
and we don't want that to happen.
The needs in that have not changed.
Right.
So we're attempting to build a process by which every year we go to the select board with a request for money in the general amount that we're looking for, so that when we're publishing the grant requests or the grant applications for that year, we can publicly say what the recommended allotment is gonna be, so we prevent very high bids and that sort of thing.
All right, Joanna, I see your hand up.
Question that I have really is where in this, there's actually a couple questions. Where in this process does the FinCom fit in? And what, number one. Number two, have we thought about inviting Brian to this meeting to have a conversation with us about how to do this? Right, so that he understands this piece of it and can advise us on the strategy. And then three, this is something I've brought up a couple of other times. I think that the organizations whose budgets we largely make a contribution to should be excluded from this grant. And I think we need to have some conversation about that. If not at this, I mean, we've discussed it at this committee, but I think we need to be discussing that with Brian and also with the finance committee. Right, and I think we need to identify and isolate who those organizations, what those organizations are. And one of them certainly is Fairwinds, right? And is it, I mean, in the 5 years that I've been on this group, we've given Fairwinds more than $100,000 a year, right? And the same thing with a couple of the other organizations. So if we're
Right.
going to decide that those organizations are supplying or offering a large enough impact on the Nantucket community to be giving them $100,000 year over year over year, it is not for new programs. And for making them go through the exercise of having to come up with something and justify it is a waste of everybody's time. And so I think we have to sit and discuss how and what should we be giving those organizations and in what way. And I think that this letter it's almost premature to that conversation, because I think until we determine how we're going to handle those requests going forward, it's very hard for us to say, we want you to consider X, or we'd like to make a recommendation for X, because we're not comparing apples to apples.
Right. Joanna, actually, I have that on my list to discuss at one point, because the recommendation that we had talked about, or at least not a recommendation, the subject we talked about is operational or program dollars as opposed to seed and new program. So
Mhm.
when we give the majority of our monies to organizations, and it's and off the top of my head, it's Fairwinds, it's Health Imperatives, and
Yes.
it's food, fuel, and rental assistance.
And
Yep.
And NAMI
He's been decreasing.
did been decreasing some, but I think those are the three major ones that they look toward the money they receive from us to be part of their operational
Operational. Yeah.
funds. Yes, occasionally, Fairwinds will come up with a new program or new things, but it basically it's what they need to keep their doors open. Food, fuel is the same thing, and I do believe that, Health Imperatives is the same thing. So separating them out and putting a cap on how much we can give. So say maybe we do a cap on $100,000 for operational grants.
Yep.
And then it gives, we then can, we won't run into the situation with putting a cap also that we wind up with getting an application for $300,000 of which it was all wonderful, but we just shook our head and said, we don't have the money to do that, and it just can't do it.
I mean,
So-
I do feel strongly about this, right? I think that it is a very I mean, we basically are contributing to, we do an offset to payroll for those organizations. That's what we're doing, right? It's not a program grant. It's an offset to payroll. And that's fine if we're calling it what it is, right? And I think that, we discussed last year that we also were not going to contribute to capital campaigns. And so I think that, we need to establish these guidelines and put them out there on the grants so that people know this in advance. And I mean, every single year that we have done this, for the years that I've been on the committee, we've had the same sort of conversation, particularly about those top 3 organizations, especially after we reviewed the financials. And we know that this is what this money is going for. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that trying to package it so that it comes to us as a program grant is an exercise in frustration for them as well as for us.
Right. It's futile effort, for people to spend the time and effort of creating something when, let's call a spade a spade. It's operational and but
It's an operational subsidy.
operational subsidy.
Which is the only
Which
way
I'm all
those.
for, right? This is not a conversation about saying they shouldn't get that. I'm just
Right.
saying that I think it should be, I think we need to have the conversation with Brian first, right? In this committee about what he thinks is the best way to address this issue before we send any sort of larger letter about something that is related, but not necessarily, we're not addressing the issue.
So my only
Once-
concern on that is just that if we don't get this letter in, then we won't be able to get a commitment on the substance misuse grant. That's the only time pressure on it. I think Joanna's point is absolutely 100% correct. These are different, it is not an apples and apples comparison between these larger organizations that we're funding operations for. I'm curious if Brian if there are gonna be procurement issues, if we exempt them from the same grant process that the other agencies do. I do think we should invite Brian
Okay.
to this.
And what I would do is maybe see if we can set a meeting in the next 2 weeks and do it in that amount of time.
Well, or you can rewrite the letter to just focus on the substance of misuse grant so that we're not conflating this with anything else, right? Other than this committee is concerned about this money going away and how are we going to make up for it? And just keep it very focused on how are we handling the substance misuse grant?
I've had my hand up for like a half an hour about that issue.
But the issue
Oh.
is, we also want to have a commitment on the
Yes.
general dollars, because when we launch the grant, we want grant recipients to understand this is how much money we have. So they're not writing grants for $300,000, which would be a lion's share of what we have.
And so it's. a more-
knowing that we can't give it to them. That's the point. But my other
Exactly.
point is, they're more in that letter, which is basically a cost of living. Because $100,000 10 years ago is worth, 65,000 at the moment, given everything that's going on in the economy. So
Right.
I think, like the other part of the letter, which I absolutely support, is the cost of living and sort of keeping, Jericho and I've talked about this ad nauseum. So we just keep that going. I think that's critical, but I also think if we're going to send a letter in the next month or so, then I think I agree with a lot of what Joanna said, but I think we need to then ask to be on the agenda.
Yeah.
Not just send a letter. We need
Yeah.
to all show up in
Yeah.
force.
Yeah.
Whether it's on Zoom or whether it's in person, post the meeting and show up and explain why we are back here. We can't just
Yeah.
send a letter. We got to
Yeah.
show up and have it on public record, on TV, as to
Mhm.
what's going on here, because maybe we'll get a little bit more bite out of the Current and the Inky Mirror about the status of human services, and that every one of these groups we're talking about here is going to get massively cut because of what's happening in Washington. And which
Mhm.
makes our increases and whatnot much more of an impact on the local, because we can't go to Hyannis, we can't do this, we can't do that. We are insulated. And we've got to support these groups that are going to be in dire straits here next year because of the impact of what's happening right now. And the select board needs to be made aware of that, and the public needs to be made aware of that, because I'm not sure the public is really on top of the impact on Meals on Wheels, which is something he was targeting in Washington, or any of these
Well,
other human services. The public needs to get their heads out of their rears and understand what's going to happen on Nantucket if we don't wake up.
Right.
And
Jericho?
to the process point about, so the way it was explained to me when I was speaking to Libby about this was that this letter would go to her and select board and that would be on the agenda, and similar to the youth behavioral health initiative, we would be an agenda item, discuss the topic, and then respond to questions in place.
All right, but Joanna, going back to you, getting Brian to come and first give us an overview and education of, can we cap for program, and how we will go about doing that?
Joanna, what was the phrase you were using? Capacity building
Yeah,
grants?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that discussion, like, I think that is a discussion that we should absolutely have here, and then we can add that to this letter as a topic for further discussion, or we can separate chunks of this out and make it two separate issues. I do think, figuring out if, sorry, go ahead.
yeah,
I think that I think that the right approach to this is to enlist Brian and say, because he's going to know what the rules are around procurement and what the rules are around municipal finance in terms of how we would need to structure any sort of separation of monies in this regard, right? Because again, that's not a thing that I think that this group is, I mean, I know that I don't fully have the ability to advise on that. But he does, and he's also the person who we need to have buy-in from. And I think that we need to we need to present our ideas to him, and we need to brainstorm with him around how we solve for some of these problems, right?
okay. All right,
So
so let's,
I think that the letter should stay focused on the substance misuse grant and the cost of living increase, which I also support.
So then I will do another draft of this and distribute it for approval, but I will remove the sections regarding. So if we're gonna focus it primarily on the substance misuse grants, I'll keep the paragraph on the cannabis regulations changing, the Raftellus study. And then I'll remove the section about the needs grow, address this need section. I
Mhm.
guess I can, we should just do I'll do another pass at it to start.
right, but,
I'm unhappy with how this letter, each draft
oh,
of this
each draft,
letter,
it's,
I don't like it.
right, and, we added more in because reading it with eyes of, knowing what the whole picture was, we added more and more in because a letter is very difficult to give the whole picture, for sure.
Please give me $800,000 is a harbinger from you, right?
So, so action steps here,
Oh,
first
man.
thing, let's see if we get Brian, and can we maybe do that next Friday? Let's try to
I
see.
can propose it to him.
Okay.
We're gonna try and keep a Friday tempo at not at the Friday meeting times, 9 o'clock. I'll email him and offer, and be like, we'd love to talk to you about, and then Joanna, give me a little bit of verbiage so that he's more. So like, we wanna talk about the capacity build. One of the issues I've found with this is that everyone is using a slightly different set of words to describe similar things. So the question
I think-
about procurement.
I think what we want to do is we want to I think the thing to ask him is, can we brainstorm with you some of the ways in which this grant process is playing out and the impact on its budget? And I think that other than that, it's going to get too convoluted. So I think that's really what we should say, and say to him that we want to do this before we need to understand how this works for Nantucket before we can really make any recommendations, and that we have some ideas.
Okay.
To be honest, like procurement 101 discussion with him would probably benefit like everyone, really
Yeah.
a great.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
The whole
But-
island needs that.
I mean,
all right,
yes.
but the first thing is meeting with Brian, and then I think we rework this letter. But let's meet with Brian first. And if we can push to get next week,
I'll see his next available Friday.
right,
He has also a lot of time commitments.
I know, but if we can keep it down to having him for 45 minutes. A time commitment like that on Friday, and he can do it by Zoom if he can't be here in person, that's certainly fine. And then the next step after that will be to redo this letter, because it may have what we get from him will have an impact of how we do this. Okay. Alrighty.
Have a timeline.
The
Is-
timeline, the grant process, so.
I can share that.
Does Linda still have her hand up?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, Linda, is your hand still up?
No,
Okay, alrighty. All right, so the grant timeline process, as Jericho had said earlier. We've been told that the recommendations have to be ready by the end of December. So we're actually pushing everything into a shorter time period. So grant release,
This is draft, by the way.
yeah,
So the idea was to determine grant total and then share it out. That's the letter we were just discussing. So we are already kind of kicking that down a little bit. Hold on, let me make this larger.
why don't you just email it out too?
Yeah.
yeah,
Because I was hoping to get some input back, and then I will definitely send it out.
yeah. So
can't read it.
basically, so in July, we were hoping to determine the grand total, so what we would have. Looks like that's not gonna happen until August.
Just fine.
But then, for August and into September is when the grant application gets, finalized, rubric, et cetera. So we're ready to release the grant, say mid-September,
At our ceremony.
right?
Yeah, that's the
Right,
idea, is
right.
that when we're doing the ceremony and stuff, so Joanna has thoroughly convinced me of the importance of doing additional public communication about this
Right.
grant. So
Yeah,
idea is to get a explicit amount of funding for these grant totals from the select board, publicize that. Then from there, at the award ceremony for last year, for the fiscal year 26 recipients, to
Right.
do, to release the RFP, give about a month of time to work on it, as we've been trying to do, and then give us sufficient time to review and do.
Right. So mid-October to mid-November will be, or mid-October till the end of November is when we would do deliberations, and we would have December then to get the report done and recommendations ready for FinCom.
Sorry, this should be, FinCom, not select board.
Right, right. So that is the general timeline. So as opposed to working into January, our heavier work is gonna be October through the end of November, which probably works better for a lot of people here because December gets tight with all other things happening. So, but everything hinges on getting the amount of money that we have. So, I think that we can do this still to have it done for the beginning of September, but let's get Brian here as soon as possible. And then, we'll work from there.
And then the other thing I wanna make sure we get done right around that time is because of how consistent the issues with the rubric were on both the opioid and the substance
Right.
misuse grant, I wanna make sure I get some more time and input from the committee members, both here and CHS,
Right,
so that we don't have that issue coming up again.
right, right. Alrighty, that brings us up to the grant award ceremony, September 12th. Joanna, you were not at our last meeting, and, I'm gonna ask, can we bring back that we could? see
Yeah, I'm
people?
sorry.
Okay. Is your facility still available for the
Yeah.
12th?
Yep.
Okay, alrighty.
Which
So-
facility?
The one down on Washington Street.
We had
just
this
the-
discussion when Joanna wasn't here. It's not handicap accessible, and the Concom is issuing a violation notice on that, on the tent, just so you know.
The tent has approval.
Not
It
from
has
the
a permit.
Concom. Not from the Concom. Concom's issuing a violation notice.
Okay, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah,
Right.
that's coming, but it's also not handicap accessible. And for any town body to have anything on anything, it has to be handicap accessible.
So the front yard is not handicap accessible.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I brought this up last month when you weren't here. And it was supposed to be looked into, and I don't know what's transpired since then, but it is not considered handicap accessible. Grass is not handicap accessible.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm more yeah, thank you.
But it's a
Sorry,
town body, you can keep doing what you're doing over there. But once the town body meets on that property, it's not handicap accessible.
Well, the other alternative we would have would be to do it on Fairgrounds in the community room there. You know,
Additionally, we recently had an event for the Council of Aging out at Sherburne Commons. Sherburne Commons does
Yeah.
receive grant funding through
Right.
this. We could potentially.
great.
Yeah, I actually quite like that space for that event. It
Yeah.
could work quite nicely if assuming I have not reached out yet, because I was waiting to hear what our decision was on it. But I can float that as a possibility, can also be the community room, time dependent. The
library isn't available,
library is not available,
Right.
and I really
NHA.
wanna hold, yeah, NHA maybe.
but the
They-
problem is that they're open during that time, and it's not that we're doing it after hours, et cetera.
Yeah,
So.
they don't have a place for that if it's during the daytime, but I think Sherburne Commons, and they did great food. Gotta tell you, that was a very nice event.
They charge, I think,
Yeah.
profit events, I think they charge a fair amount.
Okay, so, let's investigate Sherburne and then also, the community room. Community room, we wouldn't be able to have food and would make it more of just a,
Terrible.
event.
I mean, the Community Foundation just did their grants at the Sconset Casino,
Right.
right? So I really think this needs to be in a nice place and not in a meeting room,
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah,
right?
Fairgrounds.
I think it's very important, right? It
Mhm.
sets the tone of what we're doing, and I think it needs to be in a nice place.
And here,
Okay.
we're human service related, and Sherburne Commons has been the recipient of a lot of CPC funding for stuff like that. maybe Sherburne Commons would cut us a break or something, but I think it was perfect. It's got a lot of parking. It's got handicap bathrooms. I mean, it's great.
The other place I would suggest is the Dreamland, which is also handicap accessible and who we've also supported with grants.
And
So
they
I
chopped
know-
an arm and a leg over there.
I,
Yeah,
I
and
will- I can help with that.
Okay. 'Cause
If
just
you
as
want
a,
me, if you want me to ask for that, Jericho, I will be happy to do that.
thank
Yeah,
you.
okay.
Just so that we're clear, I have some funding I can utilize for the catering process, but I have no money for rent, for location fees.
Yeah.
Right.
I will try to get the location fees waived.
Okay, all righty. So Joanna, if you can look at the Dreamland and maybe we can just, as a backup, Sherburne Commons, Jericho, if you want to contact them. And if we can look as a last thing, if the community room is available on that day.
Back up, yeah.
Let's see if you can just make a call on that. All
What
right.
time is it? Did we establish a time for it?
We said we would do 10 to 12,
Okay,
10 to 12 on September 12th.
I'm just putting it in here.
Okay. Moving on, new business.
New business for me, is that as of yesterday, we did reach an agreement with the comprehensive needs assessment, vendor that we're hopefully, that was selected through the, procurement process, for, excuse me, this year's, comprehensive needs assessment. That was the recommendation of Raftellus' review of Health and Human Services grant processes, was that we really need some data, freshly collected. And then we use that to do, priority setting, and kind of inform our decisions on what gets what and what is the greater need. We have reached an agreement with a particular agency. The bids all came in above the estimate, so I am in the process of trying to secure some additional funds to cover the shortfall between the estimated bid contract and then the one that was selected. It was the highest rated bid. I am really hopeful that we'll be able to sort this out. But then once we get the contracts on that resolved and signed, we would be starting initial work on the needs assessment about a month after contracts are signed. Data collection and initial stakeholder meetings would be with this agency, CHS, CRC, FinCom, Select Board, and then probably staff both at nonprofits and working on the town. And that would start probably September with primary data collection, i.e. the survey, would be starting probably November, according to the timelines in place. And those might need to get shuffled to make sure that we get a representative sample of the shoulder season population, which also utilizes a lot of human services. So unfortunately, this needs assessment is not going to be helpful for us determining next year's grants. Following that, we'll have shared terminology, we'll have shared sector identifications, and we'll have identification of gaps and needs and relative amounts of services. So we'll have that for fiscal year 28. Yes, 28. And that's really the only new business I have.
Okay. New business, and actually probably isn't new business. So it's the beginning of the fiscal year and we should be reorganizing for vote for chair and co-chair for this meeting. But we have a little bit of a timing issue because I am appointed to this committee, as is Sue from CHS. CHS doesn't meet until next Thursday. So next Thursday, we may be reappointed to this committee. And then our next meeting, if we could be meeting next Friday morning, would be chair and co-chair of this committee, would be the first line of business that we would have to do.
Or just
And-
tell them that you guys are officers over here for life.
Well, That's another thing that we do want to discuss is putting some term limits onto chair officers, chairs, et cetera, that 3 years, I think, is ample time and just, you know, rotating after that amount of time. And I know that I made this statement last month or whatever. I still hope to be out of the country for 3 months during this time of November, December, January. I will be participating via Zoom, no matter what time of day or night it will be. But I am interested if we'll have to stay as the chair, but I do want a co-chair to be boots on the ground if the committee so votes, and also if Sue and I basically are back here next Friday. So, yeah.
And just
Well,
for clarity,
officers, for purposes of Robert's rules, officers are elected every single year, period.
Yes.
And
Yes.
generally speaking, it's chair, vice chair. Some of them are required to have secretaries, like the ZBA, as chair and vice chair. So if you're out of the country for 3 months, you got a vice chair somewhere. Sue
Right.
can be vice chair, whatever, but they're elected every single year after appointments, which is appointments start July 1. That is
Right.
required. So it's not a 3-year term or any of that stuff.
Right, but what I'm saying is we can vote a motion to have a, say, a chair only in for 3 years. That you
Three
need to
consecutive
rotate, you need to rotate, because I don't believe that having the same chair for life is a healthy way to have any organization run. So.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna vote a policy of that because that is not really, that's not kosher. But if the person after 3 years doesn't want to run again, or we want to elect somebody, and then we have that largesse to do that. But I'm not voting any policy of any kind like that. No board in town has ever done that. And I'm not gonna start that here. If
Why?
if we decide, because it's not appropriate. If we decide that we don't want you to be elected again for the 4th year, we make that vote. I'm not voting a policy of that.
Okay.
That's never been done here in my 43 years of town boards.
Well, the select board, I don't believe, do they have any kind of a ruling?
No,
The chair?
Term
No.
limits, term
No.
limits for boards, there would require charter change
Right.
at town meeting.
Right.
And I think a bylaw, like a ballot vote as well.
something.
Right,
There are traditions or best practices or protocols for these things that could be added to either mission statements as not a requirement, but as it is good for these committees to have the position rotate regularly, both to ensure that there is a larger amount of people able to follow along
Right.
and increase the.
so then that puts the responsibility on the committee to
Yes.
basically make sure that things are rotating, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and we do that by a vote every July. There you go.
All right. Okay, so we've been meeting at 9 AM on Friday morning. We've kept that as our time. If we happen to need a meeting, I guess we need to wait until we reorganize to decide that, but if we can get Brian here for next Friday morning, that would be ideal. Is everyone available next Friday morning?
What is that date? Are we talking almost in August now? Oh,
No, it's the 25th. I'm not available next Friday morning. After that, though, I am.
it's not ideal, but fine.
Okay,
So we have a determination from Maureen.
Okay.
Erica is currently working on sending appointment letters to newly appointed, which include instructions to visit town clerk. To follow up with open meeting law and conflict of interest materials. Lee can attend meetings for now, but is not eligible to vote until being signed in, until being sworn in.
okay,
Apologies.
but
I'm gonna clarify, I asked what the requirements for participating, and I'm gonna ask for some clarification on that.
yeah, whether you're a voter or not. I mean, that needs to be clarified.
right. Okay,
And Lee, are you not a taxpayer here on Nantucket? Is this
Oh,
like your?
very much a taxpayer.
We're te-
Sorry.
you're-
Not a
you're
voter,
part-
but not, he's a non-resident taxpayer, like so many.
Yeah.
Right.
And to the extent I'm still on the committee, I'll be on island next Friday.
Okay. All
I
right.
think we sort of need to have Joanna for
Yeah.
that meeting.
Joanna, are you
Yeah.
not available the entire day on Friday?
Well, I would be late in the day, but it's just the day after our big event and I've got like, we have to clean up.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
All hands on deck.
I'm all right later in the day if that's what everybody wants to do. And we all just make it strictly Zoom. No, but if Brian's coming and somebody should be in the room.
Right.
Oh, I'll be in there. Okay,
Okay.
so maybe we propose August 1st.
That's
Which
fine.
is
God,
Is that acceptable?
August 1st?
Generally that's day from hell on Nantucket.
It's in season, they're all basically that.
Right.
Can you make that, Linda?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Well, it's gonna depend on whether or not Brian is available.
Right. Joanna,
I'll
August 1st?
pencil it in.
August 1st is fine.
Okay. Alrighty. I would be on Zoom that day, but that's fine. All right. So let's try Brian for August 1st. And if not, August 8th, I get, would be the next one for him.
Yep.
No, I'm definitely not available. That's Pop's weekend and we're driving all weekend.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's do August 1st and hopefully with enough notice, unless if he's on vacation, we can get him here. All right. Okey dokey. Any other new business? All right. Lee, we hope to have you back and we'll be getting a determination and, but we will reach out, we'll get this information and reach out, but in the meantime, you should be getting something from Erica that
And
you have to be, and Maureen, so we will loop you in on that.
And I'll pass along whatever I learn about the residency the residency requirement. voting
Yeah.
requirement.
Thank you. I'll look forward to those things. And it was nice meeting everybody today.
Okay,
Thank you very
very
much.
good. So right now, we're looking at our next meeting will be August 1st at 9 AM, and hopefully we have Brian here on that day. All right. Thank you, everyone. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Can I have a second? All righty.
Roll call, sorry.
Yes, roll call, I thought it was due. Okay, so John,
Hi.
all right, Linda,
Aye.
Joanna,
Bye.
Sue,
Sue Minton and I.
myself, Veronica, so we are adjourned. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for a healthy discussion this morning. All right,
Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
bye-bye.